Hi guys, went to see Ghostbusters today. Well, I was a bit stunned actually. I've got to admit I've been quite negative on the trailers, which wasn't too over impressed with. It's been an interesting one. I think I'm going to have to eat some of my words. I went to see this today with quite negative feelings. Popped in at 11 o'clock when I started showing. I thought getting early. We're only about 3 people at the cinema. And sat through the trailers. I thought, yeah, should I have bothered coming to see this? And I got in. I was sat down as I was saying, and it started. Up came the logo, Ghostbusters, and kicked the original bit of the intro, which were quite nice. And within 5 minutes, I actually started to like this film. I did. I thought, yeah, this ain't too bad. Kate McKinnon's superb. Kristen Wiig's awesome. The other two are great. And it starts off in a bit of where they're all like a friend that wrote a book many years ago, and one of the two, I forgot her name now, Kristen Wiig, I think. She's grown up around this sort of supernatural, and they used to call her Ghost Girl at school, and she wrote a book with a friend, and it got printed. Now she's a respected physicist at a university, and she works with complete utter wankers like that pet character, and basically they find out about her book and she gets sacked. But before that, she goes to see the other one, Melissa McCarthy, about she'd released a book onto Amazon or eBay somewhere, and you know, I need to bury it because I mean, there's some great lines where she said, I've been licking ass for years just to get where I am, and you sort of going with it like you know. And before that, somebody when she's teaching in a lecture and there's nobody there, this fella turns up and says, you know, there's a haunting. I mean, the film opens up with an incident, you know, and then in kicks the music, and it begins. Sort of like anyway, she goes to the laboratory, and they work for a real like low down college, the other two, and she meets the engineer, and Victoria, because she's just so cool and funny, you know, and they investigate the first ghost thing, and it's reminiscent of the first film in the library. I mean, this film has a lot of tribute to the original film, which is quite cool, but the story is, it's predictable, but there's some fantastic one-liners in this film, and it's very enjoyable. I found after 10 minutes I was starting to laugh, you know, and how they come together is quite good. I don't want to give you too many spoilers because I'd rather you go watch it. Do you know what I mean? Because if I start releasing spoilers, I'm gonna, you know, I think you've got to experience this. The film is a romp. It's enjoyable. It's something you go see and come out and think that was quite good. Look, the original's a masterpiece. You can't compare it. But this for 2016 is not bad. The 4 female characters are awesome. They're really funny, and the stereotype with Chris Hemsworth is so funny. He's like this daft secretary who's just on another planet, so full of himself. Chris Hemsworth is brilliant in this film. He is so funny. I was surprised, you know, because you're thinking Mighty Ford, you know, when he walks in and he's just upping himself. So you just know he had a good time doing this film with them. And it's going along, and then you get into like they start investigating ghosts and trying out. I like the bit where they're experimenting with the technology, but their weapons, instead of catching all, it can destroy them as well, which is quite good. I mean, they have Ghostbuster grenades and like this other device that sucks them into it, like, you know, like a ghost vacuum cleaner. It's quite cool. It's called a wusher or something, I think. The villain, the problem is, the villain is running around leaving devices everywhere to break through to the other dimension to let them all in. He's a complete nerd. He's just got issues about growing up. But it's funny really, because some of the Ghostbusters, can sort of connect with him because they've had abuse themselves. And you're not getting much with him. I mean, I like his character when he turns up at the beginning, when Patty's sat in the booth on the New York Underground, and he comes out with something about the fourth creation, the fourth event, which is quite interesting. But there should have been more focus on him and more of his background, because the actor that played him, what you saw of the villain, is quite interesting, but he's not in it much. He's just sort of get bits of him. Basically, he's pissed off at the world for being treated like crap, and he's going to get revenge, and he's worked out a way also to get ultimate power as well, to become very powerful. And that's basically it. You get all the cameos of the original Ghostbusters, which is quite funny. Bill Murray as like somebody, a ghost debunker, who's with big ass, who's really up his own backside. He's trying to sort of put them down and debunk them. When he turns up, it's quite funny with that scene. It is. I mean, I could stop laughing. And then we get Dan Aykroyd as the cab driver, which is cool. I wonder if they were going to put a ghost in to look like Harold Ramis, but I don't think they did. You know, they want, but there is some classic lines. Ernie Hudson turns up at the end. He owns the funeral parlour. He's hilarious. But to top it off for me, you saw Janine. She works in the reception where the nerd villain is, who's building this machine to let them all in. And at the end, because there's some extended bits at the end, Sigourney Weaver turns up, Kristen Wiig's auntie, and she's really funny. She's another genius, like this feminine genius, which is really, really cool. And all of it's it's a smooth ride, is this film. The story, I'm going to give the story 3 out of 5. If they had the villain play a much bigger part, I'd give this film for the story, I'd give it a 4. But again, the camaraderie between the 4 women is really funny. They work beautifully together, and it's such a shame. I know it's a bit critical of me saying this. The trailers were terrible, they were, but actually seeing the film is quite enjoyable. Just before you get to the big battle scene, the actual film before the major scene, the fight scene, the actual journey of the film is actually better than the fight scene, but it's not too bad. I mean, you do see Stay Puft, which is quite funny. You know, again, another tribute. But the villain's called Rowan, and he ends up sacrificing himself to become a superior ghost, and he comes back all powerful. And he works out a way to make himself godlike. And he does, when they trap him, because he possesses Chris Hemsworth. And there is a funny, I think the scene is where the National Guard, the police, go into Times Square to sort it out, and he possesses them all, and he's making them all do what he wants. I think you're meant to get a lot of impact with that, and you don't. You get a bit, but it's not much. Now, it's great when the Ghostbusters music kicks in, like the instrumental bits is really good. You do get that feel of the film. The Mary J. Blige one, it's okay, but it just doesn't seem to go with the film for me. It don't fit. So, Chris Hemsworth is playing a great scene in Times Square where the National Guard and all that they're all sort of frozen, and he's making them dance about and look stupid, and the Ghostbusters go in there. And he floats up, he's coming out with Peter Pan references, and he is quite funny, and then he says, you know, choose something, and they're all like, you remember when that girls that chose their body? It's basically that type of scene. And he comes back as the Ghostbusters logo, but like, size of a skyscraper. I mean, it's bloody massive. And he just wrecks this build coming out of it. And there's a big battle, and they realise they can't destroy him. They have to reverse the vortex, and basically they reverse it, and he gets sucked in. And Melissa McCarthy gets dragged in, and Kristen Wiig jumps in and gets her out, and all that. I mean, the scene with Slimer and Mrs. Slimer, it's sort of funny. I mean, it's great seeing a Mrs. Slimer. I thought that was quite cool. It's like Ghostbusters, because it was a male film. A lot of it's like, imagine it being reversed, which is sort of interesting. These four women are very funny together. They work really well, and Chris Hemsworth, like I said, all five of them just do marvellous. The problem is with the film is that the big grandstanding ending, it should have been better, because before that the film is a beautiful build-up of how they get there to this. It's funny when the Lord Mayor calls them into the office, and he said they know it's real what's going on, but they can't admit it because the people can't handle it, apparently. It's quite funny with politicians and Homeland Security. Even at end, after like half of New York gets, Times Square just gets levelled, they're still trying to deny it, but everybody knows, you know. And there's a nice touching sort of thing when the film finishes. I don't want to keep repeating myself. I mean, there is points I could pull at, but there's not. I recommend you go see this, because you do walk out feeling something quite good. You know, you've got to realise, when I saw the original Ghostbusters, I was like 19, and it blew me away. Do you know what I mean? This is the Ghostbusters 2016, 30 years on, more or less. And it's not going to be the same, even though the cameos from the original. I personally would have liked seeing the original Ghostbusters. I mean, I would have done. And then giving it to a mixed team of 2 males and 2 females would have been interesting. You know. But I got a problem with how it's been set. They've all got cameos, which is interesting from the original film. Would have been good to see Peck in it, actually, as like some kind of administrator somewhere. There's lots of pet characters in it. It's got its flaws, but for what I paid for it, for going to see it, it's 2 hours. I walked out of there. I didn't walk out with negative feelings. I was actually thinking about it when I left the cinema. Would I go see it again? I'd probably go see it with the other half. You know, and I don't think I'd have a problem seeing it again, actually. I think because it's just quite enjoyable. It's not complicated, it's not deep. It's comedy, and it is funny. I mean, I was laughing. I had some people at the back of me laughing. So the film does have an effect. My rating for this film, Ghostbusters, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. The only thing that killed it for me was the battle at the end. I mean, the effects are impressive on the big final battle. And the villain should have played a much bigger role in it for me. I know it's about their coming together event and about them, but the villain should have played a lot more. He was an interesting character, you know, which I found. But all in all, not too bad. I'm going to give it a 3.5. Just under a 4, 3.90. I'll give it just under a 4, just 2 little bits it lacks. So that's it. That's my review of Ghostbusters. I do recommend you go see it, because you will walk out with something. Alright guys, I'll see you on the next video. Please share and subscribe. I'm feeling quite good, actually. You know, not a bad film. Alright.